So, admittedly, I'm not entirely sure how to approach this topic of discussion, but today I wanted to talk to you about Modern Warfare because I'm sure a lot of you guys recognize, but for those that may not, Modern Warfare is quite literally broken to almost absurd levels, beyond belief perhaps here. A lot of players like myself, we haven't played Modern Warfare in a little bit of time. I've always been that person that goes on to the next current game, and every so often I'll go back, but with things like the Vanguard integration into Warzone, ranking up all my weapons beforehand, grinding out my levels and getting everything ready for camos or whatever the case may be in Vanguard, I hadn't gone back to Modern Warfare for quite some time, a couple of months now at this point. But as of the Season 1 update, I had seen pockets of discussion where Modern Warfare wasn't working for some people. But then, investigating it a little bit further, and yes, I'm fully aware that this is sort of late to the discussion, but having not had that hands-on experience, having had issues like we'll talk about here in a second, already persisting on my end for Modern Warfare as is, I just didn't have the full picture here and how busted it actually is. Now, Vanguard and Warzone have their plethora of different bugs, whether it be visual distortion, rendering, artifacting, and poly issues within the game, affecting the graphics and how the game looks, to invisible items, whatever the case may be. Modern Warfare takes that to another level and just straight up doesn't let people in. A lot of people, from what I've seen predominantly on console, and this is where my personal experience comes into play as well, console just doesn't let you play the game. Whenever you boot up Modern Warfare / Warzone, of course it will default to either Warzone or trying to push you towards Vanguard and launching that, but if you go over, you end up seeing that you'll probably have installation suspended or missing content pack on the multiplayer side of things. Depends on if you ended up deleting the multiplayer off of Modern Warfare so you could end up making more room on your hard drive. But either way, it would then prompt you to download a compatibility pack, a content pack, whatever the case, but whenever you do, it still doesn't let you in. So it's this perpetual loop of downloading something or uninstalling and then reinstalling, and it just doesn't get you anywhere. This bug in particular has been affecting me and my console for about 6 months now at this point. And honestly, up until this point, I thought I was just doing something wrong, where like it was my own stupid user error or something like that. But now with it affecting thousands upon thousands of people, well, it turns out this has been a deeply rooted issue for quite some time. Now, apparently there is some small workaround here that works for some people, and make sure that there's the heavy emphasis on some because it didn't work for me. Hopefully it can work for you. Apparently, if you download and install the content packs or the compatibility packs from your actual management of your game files, that's something that hopefully can end up remedying that and fix it, allowing you into the game. But again, it works for some people, not everybody. But that said, if you end up getting into the game, something that I've seen persist even on PC, because I ended up re-downloading, reinstalling here and jumping in to see if anything on the PC side of things was busted. And well, even if you get into the game, you're not out of the woodwork just yet. The biggest thing that I encountered here on PC was that every single time that I completed a match, I would end up trying to re-queue. If you try and automatically queue, I think this is where this comes into play. But anytime that it finds a lobby, it will then immediately back you out to the main menu and then have this game flickering where it's kind of searching for servers or something, but it keeps going back and forth between being interactable to cancel that queue or to not. And so it just creates this unbearable game flickering. And honestly, it might even be something that the rapid amount of flashing could be pretty bad if you have something like epilepsy. Like, it's a lot of flashing. So that's something that I think, again, a sort of workaround here to this is that if you end up leaving the game either right before it ends or before you start to re-queue into something else after you get into the game, if you do that quick enough before it sort of starts that bug in that loop, you can kind of avoid it, but you really shouldn't have to do that. Also, there's a ton of other things that bleed into the game from Warzone somehow, where Tempered and Combat Scout are apparently in Modern Warfare's MP now at this point. Apparently, it's a very easy glitch that I've heard, but honestly, I don't care to look into it, don't care to promote it, because that's some bull. Tempered obviously giving you armor and spawning you in with full plates, which in Warzone is 2 plates, but you don't have plates within Modern Warfare's MP, so you end up doubling your health by using a glitch here every single life. Combat Scout allows you to see players pinged through the walls and by your shots, so that too gives, again, a little bit of an unfair advantage in a situation where other players don't have these perks available to them. There's probably a myriad of other different things that we could throw into this list here, but without it just kind of sounding like bitching or anything like that, Modern Warfare is pretty downright broken. Now, it is something that I would almost guarantee that those in charge of handling this know something's up, or at least I would hope. I mean, my game was kind of like this for 6 months without any fix, so fingers crossed, I guess. But I mean, what's next? And truth be told, I don't know, honestly. For the first time in a while, I completely and am utterly clueless as to what I'd suggest for a fix. Obviously, you want to make sure that things don't trickle over from Warzone into base MP. You want to fix that game flickering so that it doesn't hurt anybody's actual health. And then, of course, also allows players to get into the game. And hell, even at the very base, you'll want people to be able to get in the game on console. But to do that, I have no idea. I'm not a game engineer, no developer. I have no actual insight or advice on how we could remedy this, but obviously it's got to get fixed here. But I'm more so talking in generalities. What's next so that this doesn't happen again? For me, I think that Warzone just needs to be downright its own application. Truth be told, this is a little bit speculative here, but I don't think that this was ever planned to be this big when it was developed. I'm talking Warzone as a whole. I think that honestly, Warzone, and I could almost probably guarantee this is the case, I think this was meant to be a sort of Blackout, Modern Warfare, game-specific type of thing here. Warzone, I don't think was ever meant to be the home base for multiple years of COD to come, and instead, it was probably just meant to be a bonus fourth mode that was meant to keep up with the BR craze. The idea to release it free-to-play and be a through line for every single Call of Duty game to follow after came very close to when it was completed. And I mean, we have glimpses of that even being confirmed by the fact that Blackout 2.0 was something that was in development. That was scrapped for Black Ops Cold War and then instead turned into Outbreak and Fireteam locations. If you guys remember back around, I think it was July or August of last year, when Warzone was still kind of in its infancy, we had these rumors, these leaks of the air quotes next Warzone map. And that was something that ended up just being that Blackout 2.0 map that was scrapped. That initial image that was shared, I ended up seeing it actually. It was the exact same thing that months on months later, the same leakers were referencing the same image. It never got progressed. So therefore, cut content, it was something that was meant to be Blackout 2.0. So I don't think that Warzone was ever meant to be this big. And for the first time in probably the entirety of Warzone, now thinking about this, seeing the bugs that it's caused year over year with each integration, I've kind of recently started to shift to that tune of, well, maybe this should have been a Modern Warfare only thing. And maybe that sounds crazy, and I love the fact that Call of Duty has kind of reached new heights with the free-to-play environment now encompassed within Call of Duty, having something to stand in that competition. But you're taking the better parts of full games and offloading it into a game that isn't being upkept outside of that shared mode, and you're dumping tons upon tons of assets and upgrades into something that wasn't built for it. It's bound to cause a ton of problems. I mean, you're dumping all of this into Modern Warfare. No matter how much you want to brand the game as Warzone, how much you clearly want it to be something else since the summer of 2020 when the branding started to change, it's Modern Warfare's base application and exe file that you're doing this to, not Warzone. If Warzone was its own standalone application, that would, I honestly think, probably alleviate so much of these problems, or at the very least, minimize them. You'd have an entirely different entity, disassociated from an entire mainline title that is getting these things dumped into. Not taking a game that's now entering its third year of life and trying to cram things that are built for next gen into something that wasn't. You could put it into something that could be a living and breathing application that wouldn't have an entire separate game tied to it, that knowing any change that you make could inadvertently change that base game like we see now. You'd be able to have things like an FOV slider, constant engine upgrades, perk upgrades and changes, and so on and so forth, not just pulling from the base of another game, and certainly not having to have that thought hanging over your shoulder of, okay, well, what if it all goes south? You not only ruin the free-to-play side of things, perhaps, but you also ruin something that people paid hard-earned cash for. 60 upwards of, I think, what? We actually had an Ultimate Edition or a Collector's Edition that was like 180 or something like that back whenever it launched. So you paid real money for that and for it to be broken. So what's next? Honestly, man, fix the stuff that is already busted right now, and then we need Warzone as its own application. We need to avoid this kind of stuff in the future. So I don't know when that happens, if it happens at all before the rumored Modern Warfare 2 here in the fall of 2022. But for the time being, man, the second integration here with this, it just proves that Warzone, and as a result, Modern Warfare is in way over its head here. So hopefully these things are fixed. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this, have a casual discussion on what's going on, because right now it's still not good. We've talked about Vanguard, we've talked about Warzone, but haven't had the time to talk about Modern Warfare just yet, and perhaps that's the most broken out of all of them. So That said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? What is your remedy here? How does this get fixed in your opinion? What do you do? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so drop them down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, all things Vanguard, and maybe all things Modern Warfare as well, going back a little bit. If you guys are interested, hit that subscribe button. But that said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.